Today, we are going to talk about the engagement gap. Everybody's been talking about it. What do you think? I know we've done some studying and we looked up what's actually been happening, but I think I want to touch on a little bit about our business and how we see it unfolding from our perspective and give a little bit of insight into what other people are feeling when it comes to the running a photography, videography business in the wedding industry for the last 3 years. And some of the thoughts that I came up with are pretty relevant, have to do with the last 3 years playing catch up. I think that I've come to realization that as much as we were busy in these years and we had lots of amazing couples and clients, we've grown, and as we've, gotten to do all of these things, there's been quite a few things that have happened, and I think that a lot of people in the wedding industry are probably feeling the same thing, and maybe even in other businesses too. When it comes to the wedding industry, what I think has happened is that people that were supposed to get married in 2020 ended up moving their weddings, right? They moved them from 2020 to 2021, some to 2022. I mean, we actually shot one in 2023. We had one left. People postponed for a really long time, and so that has meant that the income that we were supposed to make in 2020 has been essentially postponed and divided up between 3 seasons versus it being just one. And now we were really lucky. I know that I say lucky, but we were lucky in the sense that a lot of our couples in 2020, when we did have to move their wedding, they still decided to pay us in 2020. So it did help us get through that season.
Could you imagine if they didn't?
Oh, I know.
2020 would have been a terrible financial year for us.
It would have been even worse, right? What happened is that money now was gone in 2020, but we were still having to shoot their weddings in 2021 or sometimes even 2022. And what that meant is that now a day that we were holding on to for them in 2020, say a prime Saturday in August or September, is now also being held again for either the next year or the following year. And so we've, been unable to book other business, or it meant that we had to separate because we were already booked. There were a lot of things that happened in that realm that made it very difficult. But really, what also has happened, which I don't think people are talking about, is the cost of things. Even just buying new equipment. I remember when we bought our new R5s, amazing. We love our R5s. We love the digital cameras. We could have a whole episode on them. Just buying a camera body before would be like $3,500. And those things were almost $5,500 Canadian. Things like that we didn't necessarily realize at the time, or just even the lenses that I use is $4,000. You didn't buy lenses for you were buying them for $2,000 or $3,000, but not $4,000. Everything jumped tremendously overnight. The other thing that I noticed too was the cost of second shooters. Before, and it's maybe we were underpaying, but I think that was just the norm in our area. It was about $25 an hour, and now the minimum in our area is about $50 an hour. Some, we even asked them to second shoot for us, and we're charging $100, $150 an hour. And when we booked these weddings for this season, we booked them in 2021, most of them. Or we booked them in 2022, early in 2022, and we were budgeting for $25 an hour. We weren't budgeting for $50 an hour. So I feel like that coming into play with the fact that there's this engagement gap, and that's really where I'm coming back to, is people were not dating in 2020 either, right? And I think some of the research that you looked up was that people usually date for 3 years before they get engaged.
Yeah, that's 3.25 or something is the amount of time they've been together before they get engaged. And then you look back 3 years ago, what was happening, right? Yeah. COVID hit. People weren't really thinking about weddings. The ones that were currently already about to get married were shooting themselves in the foot thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Move my wedding? Some of them kept it and just had micro weddings or whatever. But yeah, it kind of cascaded into 2021 was kind of busy. We were still doing some lockdowns here in Ottawa. 2022 ended up being our biggest year. I think we shot close to 100 weddings in that season alone, and we had to separate a lot. Obviously, we were really fortunate that at least as a business, we had multiple shooters that could do multiple coverage on the same day, but some people weren't as lucky as we were.
Yeah, but that meant, though, that extra expenses that I was
True.
talking about,
Yeah.
right? Whereas before we were expecting to make like the full amount, right?
'Cause it would
Like,
just
because it would
be
be
me and
you
you.
and you
Yeah.
going, but now it's like, okay, well, we have to pay somebody because we're separating. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're technically making perhaps more, but not really, especially if they had booked their wedding in 2020.
Yeah.
We weren't really making much more. We were like breaking even, I think, at that point, to be honest with you. That new wedding was essentially being paid for to pay everybody, to pay all the people that had to be involved to shoot that wedding now, right? So I feel like that engagement gap is really, it's quite valid. I think that people just weren't dating in that year, or if they were,
I mean, how can you date through a computer screen?
Like,
You
you're
had
not-
to lock down, you had to have your own bubble, and you couldn't really go out and see anyone else new.
yeah, you weren't seeing your friends, you weren't seeing your family. The last couple of years, I feel like, was a bit of an anomaly. A lot of people were getting married or finally getting married that had been waiting a long time.
Yeah.
But there's, again, this gap, right? Like, those people probably met in 2018 or 2017 or 2019 before the world blew up. And then they were waiting to get married. But I feel like right now, there's not a lot of people that met in 2020 that are ready to get married now.
There's that, plus the fact that, yeah, maybe they haven't gotten so close because the dating was forever changed by COVID. They are taking their time, and now the availability of wedding vendors, the prices of things going up, all kind of happened at the same time, right? Because the cascading effect, 2022 were so busy for us, but at the same time, I'm sure it was busy for every single wedding vendor out there.
Yeah, everyone
And-
was booked.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't find second shooters if we
So,
life depended.
and if you wanted to book in 2023, that was kind of the same thing. The dates were really far and few in between of anyone who was available. And so people just thought, well, let's not get married then. It just became really expensive. And now mix that with the economy going down, up, whatever, costs going up and people making less money.
Inflation.
Yeah, exactly, inflation. And now we're in this weird lull where weddings are expensive because we got so busy in the last few years that most people had to raise their price for that supply and demand effect. And now our prices are set and things
demand.
are just costing so much more money, like groceries and housing and rent and all that stuff.
And then there's no demand.
Yeah, and now we're in it kind of just like ebbs and flows, and we're in this valley where everything's expensive, and people that 3-year range where they are thinking about getting engaged. But I mean, even the prices of rings, I'm sure, have gone up like crazy. I don't know how much it is, but diamonds will forever be expensive, you know?
True. Or people are just not buying into like real diamonds, perhaps, I don't know, to save money. The housing market, right? If these people are trying to live together first, maybe buy a house first, it's really hard.
Do you have a wedding or do you invest in a house?
Well, and then also the thing that I think nobody really talks about is like the cost. Like everyone says like, oh, the average cost of a wedding, I have $30K to spend on a wedding. Like I don't think you can get married anywhere in Ottawa for less than $30K unless you were
A 50-person wedding, maybe.
Yeah, I think like by the time you do the math, you know, at 100 people, it's almost like $300 a plate. Like
There's your 30
there's your
grand.
30 grand. So reality is it's double that. So a $50,000 wedding is really bare bones. You're getting a nice venue, you're getting some good food, hopefully a decent photographer. You're probably not getting video, you're probably not getting flowers, or very, very minimal of that. You know, by the time you get the dress, the suit, if you need a limo, hotel rooms, let's just face it, people are gonna have to spend $50,000, $60,000. I just see why it's just not feasible if you're doing it yourself. Like, would you wanna spend 60 grand on a wedding?
It's a hard question to answer, to be honest, because in theory, sure, I'd love to have a great big wedding, a big party, and have the vendors of my choice and the ones that I really like their work or whatever it is. But realistically, right now, if we were saving for a house, or if we had just purchased a house
having kids
or had to
whatever.
renew our mortgage, whatever it is, yeah, have kids, nothing is cheap. That's just the way of the world right now. And we're just in this slump where maybe we're gonna get out of it in 2024, like later in the year, but I think it's a slow year for a lot of vendors. We've seen other vendors reach out in marketing and do things that we never thought they would, like venues doing open houses, or other vendors coming up with new creative ideas of how they can sell their products, their things, their services. And yeah, we're all kind of just reaching out there trying to do the best we can.
It's like back to the beginning days. You
It
know?
is,
when we
yeah.
like just started our business, kind of got like a little hustle and grind kind of feel.
And it's going to weed out some people, I think. Some people got burnt out from the last season and they're just starting to get back into posting on social media and doing all the advertising. Maybe they think they're above working for free or whatever it is, right? And we're going to really see that in the next little while, that the ones that are really going to start grinding and getting their name out there are really going to rise to the top, because it's we're back into the jungle, baby. You know.
Well, this is like 2019 days. 2018, 2019, 2017 even. Those were some years where, because we've been doing this since 2015.
Almost 10 years, can you believe it?
I know, it's crazy. Those days we had to hustle, right? Like we were doing a lot of things for free. We were doing a lot of things in exchange. We were hustling to build it up there to get those referrals. And everybody does that. Like, let's just be honest. Everybody goes through this phase. So now I think it's going to be a time for the people that know how to hustle, who know how to get it done, who are going to get out on top.
Well, it's not so much that you have to hustle to get business, is you have to prove that you're worth what you're worth at this point, right? Because not a lot of people have thousands of dollars to spend on something when they're not really confident, right? Because money's just become that much more valuable.
Yeah, but I think that the thing that people need to understand is that what things cost in 2019 and what they cost now is considerably different. I think in 2019 or 2018 even, maybe $30,000 would have been a decent wedding, but I don't see that happening now. Like a $50,000 wedding is going to still be very bare bones. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I think couples are really trying to consider, should they do the smaller wedding? I don't even think like destination weddings are cheaper. I don't even think that that's a thing anymore. I feel like that's faux pas in the sense of, by the time you go down there and you have to get everybody else to pay for their trip to go down there, you're still spending the money, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is the engagement gap is here. I just don't know how long do you think it's going to last? Like, do you think that people met after 2020? When do you think people started dating? When do you think that picked up? That would be interesting to see.
It's tough to know, because I still have some friends that
are still single.
Yeah, I know. But we've also seen accelerated relationships after 2020, right? Where they like met in the last few years and they're already married. Because sometimes it has the reverse effect where you had to bubble in with your family or whatever. There was no more going out to bars and social thing. If you met somebody online, all you had was each other. And you became best friends really fast because that's all there was.
What do you think we could say to people who are in this from our perspective? If you're like a photographer, just started in 2020 or really haven't experienced a non-crazy season,
a non-COVID year,
what do you think some of the things that people should do to help them get through this engagement gap so that they can sort of come out of it the other side?
Looking at different ways of getting your name out there. I think, like you said, going back to grinding, doing things for free, but what you want to do is get exposure. That is asking for reviews on your service or having them referred. It's just, there's ways of getting paid, quote unquote, without actually making money out of it. It could just be that you do work for a certain venue and then they have your cards when they have open houses or whatever it is, or you just get them to write a Facebook or Google review for you and help you in that sense, because those...
Or they share all your content, right?
Yeah, or sharing it online, tagging you, things like that. So there's other ways of getting paid and getting your name out there, and maybe that was lost back in the day because the supply and demand was like just out there like crazy.
I think everybody was so busy the last couple of years, right? Like I think a lot of people lost sight of hustling and doing things to collaborate and stuff. You obviously need to make money and pay your bills. I get that. But at the same time, you know, there's worthwhile opportunities for you to invest into those real relationships that can also refer you. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate overnight, right? Like just because you do a bunch of stuff for a venue today that they're going to like send you every single piece of business that they get. But the more that you invest your time with them, the more that you offer to do things for them or look at ways to just really solidify those relationships. It doesn't have to be venues. It could be other places like planners or maybe florists or
wedding dresses,
you know, wedding dresses, whatever, anything that's sort of in your market. I mean, the other thing is as well is like looking outside of your market. Like maybe you need to network with people who have the same type of clients with you. When I think about that, I think about like real estate agents, for instance. Like, who do they deal with? Usually people who are buying their first home. They probably have a bunch of those people. So maybe if you're You could look at like offering them headshots or something, right? So anyways, there's definitely lots of ways for you to get into that field, and just look at those opportunities that can hopefully translate into something down the line. I always think of that long term, and I feel like we've done a really good job at that over the years.
Yeah, we've done our fair share of work like this with people that have really given us nothing back, right? And
but also who've given us a lot back.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it's been both ways. Like
Correct.
we have some where they've given so much that like,
but you almost have to come from an angle where you don't expect it to come back, or else
we never do. That's our thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, deep down inside, I hope.
We hope.
I have hope, and I was just about to say, if you don't have expectations, at least you won't be disappointed if it doesn't come back.
Sure.
And we've definitely done our fair share of stuff for free for people.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a while, right? Like I think some of that is like, it's just been doing it and showing up and like putting in the time, putting in the work. And we really don't expect anything. Obviously, we hope that they'll think of us if they find somebody. Like, that's really what we want. We want to be there as a reminder so that they think of us whenever somebody who might be even thinking about getting married, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you absolutely need to talk to these.
And that's a journey too. That's something that you just got to keep fostering, and you have to be proactive in it. If you're just sitting there waiting, you do this one thing and then you're like, all right, I did it. Yeah. I did this thing and I'm going to wait for it to come back. And no, you have to be proactive. You have to show up, and it's really about that hustle again, because there's nothing worse than coming into a year where you just made, let's say, $100,000 last year, and then you have $50,000 booked this year, and you're like, where did it go?
Yeah, like what's happening?
Yeah, well, how can I boost that up? This time last year, I was making double the money, and now this year, you're gonna have to be creative. You can't just sit on the sidelines. You really have to get out there, see what you can do to, again, be that reminder, so that if somebody does come up, that they think of you.
Another thing too, I think that people could do is look at ways that they can share older content, right? Like the best people to refer you are past clients, right?
True.
So if you have old content, it doesn't even have to be from this past season if you're like done sharing that. You can pull up stuff from other seasons, maybe some of your favorite clients or whatever, maybe stuff you just never got around to sharing because it's been so crazy busy the last couple of years, and just make an effort to share that stuff and ask your clients. Like I literally ask my clients to please share and to please engage with my posts, because it really does go a long way when they do that. And so my clients know if I post something, like they have to share it. They have to comment or whatever.
They want to feel the wrath of Bethany.
No, but the thing is everybody knows how much effort it is to post something, right? So to me, it's like posting it and then just hoping that people do it. You kind of have to ask them. Like if somebody said to me, hey, can you share this? I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes. But if I just saw it show up in my feed, I probably wouldn't just share it.
Yeah, you'd be like, comment.
I'd be like, cool, liked it or whatever, right?
And what's the worst they could say? No, I don't want to share it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, cool, that's your prerogative.
Yeah. And then think of fun ideas that you can do to get in front of those people. So maybe it's like engagement session, giveaways.
Giveaways are a good way.
Those are always an easy win.
Post a giveaway to enter the contest, have it shared, comment.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing actually at some point. I can't remember what year it was, but I don't actually see a lot of those happening now. But
nobody wants to.
But I think it's starting to come back. Yeah, it's starting to come back. And then
I've seen people giving away full wedding day coverage right now.
Straight up, yeah. Or like win 50% off your package. Or there's a lot of creative ways that you can do it.
Yeah.
Another thing that is easy to do to show up in front of your past couples, and then they might be able to give you referrals, is blog post about your top wedding dresses that you saw of the year. And that would hit a lot of your couples all in one go. So it's not posting all of this one wedding and then you're kind of putting your eggs in one basket. You kind of post a compilation of stuff, and it's just, people love to see that, right? They love to see what it is that you captured in a whole season and compare it to the different weddings that you saw.
True. Yeah, we did that this year, and I think that was pretty successful. People really liked it. So it's a lot of work. It was the first time that I ever did it because I knew how much work it would be, but I've been wanting to do it since like 2015, so I just never got around to it.
Yeah, because
usually by Christmas and just done. So.
Well, because our we really got heavy into weddings in 2020, and obviously
and
that
we've had
kind of
kids too. I think that's been the
obviously.
hardest part, is for like, as much as I don't like to say it as an excuse, I feel like the kids really have made it so that everything that we do is just a little bit harder, 3 times harder technically by the time
you really
think
do
of
hate
it.
that excuse.
I do, but it comes down to it sometimes 3 times harder, because we have to think about those 3 little people that we love, and
Just love them so much.
and so when it comes to that, it's really about making sure that we're putting them first around that time. So it's not that we didn't put them first this year, it's just that we were a little bit more organized, I think, than we have been in other years, so more motivated.
Yeah, true. And then if you do have not disposable income, but another way to get in front of your clients and really make an impact is like Christmas cards or like little anniversary gifts. Anniversaries are also a great way to reshare content. If it's like, oh, they got married on this day
and you could
2 years ago,
you
last
can go
year.
and pre-schedule all that out right now. So if you know, like, everybody that got married last year, you could go and make a post for this year and have it scheduled for their anniversary date, so you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. So those are all like little ways that you can keep showing up through the years and tag them and really use those resources to your advantage.
But do you think that it's going to sort of continue through this year, or do you see a lot more engagements popping up because we're getting into now that 3-year mark?
I feel like 2025 is a nice round number, right? So a lot of people are probably just waiting it out too. It's all coming all together, and like 2025, the economy, COVID, all of that's just kind of mixing together into like maybe 2025 is going to be a huge year because people love that number. I don't know what it is.
But that's what it means, though. So if you are getting married in 2025, better get on booking.
That is true. That is true. Because it's probably going to fill up real fast. You know, a lot of people. I feel like we're saw
already
a lot of people
booking in 2025, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people we've seen get engaged over this holiday season, right? And that's usually what happens. And then, Valentine's Day is coming up. So between like that November to February, there's a lot of action with couples.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Most babies are born in September. Did you know that? Or November.
All of our babies are born October, November, so
it's
going to be a good month for me.
Ew. Anyways, if you have questions about the engagement gap, let us know. We would love to hear from you. And please reach out, because I think that everybody is probably feeling it. You're not alone.
Yeah.
And we'll get through this together. Peace.
Peace.